name is Olof. I'm really pleased to be here in Istanbul at Digilogue. I would like to thank Lalin for the invitation, and I would like to thank you guys for showing up in such big numbers. I'm raised in West Africa, and since 2000 I'm working in the field of media art, technology, digital creativity, innovation. I'm the founder of TodaysArt, a festival in The Hague, and in order to explain you our context, inspiration, and even motivation, I will take you on a trip about technology, creativity, digital ethics, and speculative ideas. Because the world has become quite complex, but just because it's complex, I don't think it needs to be complicated. So let's have a look at today's ideas for tomorrow's culture. This is March 2011, when Steve Jobs was doing his keynote, and he was already talking about this intersection of technology and liberal arts, this crossroad, because he said technology alone is not enough. Liberal arts and creativity are essential for innovation. We as humans, we love technology, we embrace it, because it gives us unlimited connectivity. We can communicate with each other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all over the world. But as you can see, there are still some gaps, so we need to fill these. Then it gives us unlimited amount of information through this internet. Information, but also a platform to express. And it makes us really smart. We have smartphones and smart cars and smart cities and smart machines and etc. We can see this little sperm cell over there. It's inactive, but through a 3D printed propulsion engine, it's still able to propulse itself into the egg. So all kind of great things. We also have new citizens that are born digital. Everyone here in the room under 25 is born with internet. These new citizens, they are hyper-connected, and they have this infinite amount of communication. They are not more intelligent than I am, but they use their brain differently. Based on research, we know that they are much better at multitasking. And they have much more iconic skill. That's the way they treat information on the social medias, for example. When I read a book, I go from beginning to end. But this young generation, apparently, they have another way of reading. It's non-linear. They just take what's important for them. And they are used to live in this world of accelerating change. Because if we look here at this graph, it shows the acceleration of change. On the upper left corner, you see the agricultural revolution. It took 8,000 years to move into the next revolution, which was the Industrial Revolution. 120 years later, we had the light bulb. 90 years later, we were on the moon. And 22 years later, we had the World Wide Web. Every technology was built on the other technology, so the growth went exponential. That gives us also a crazy amount of computer power. It started in 1900, and we are now there where you see 3, the point of singularity. We have computer power. If we combine all the computers in the world, we have the computer power of the brain of a mouse, which I think you might think that's not a lot, but for a computer it's quite a lot. In 2023, we think that we will have a computer as powerful as a human. And another 25 years later, we will have computers as powerful as all humans together. We have also a new thing, it's called the Internet of Things, where machines are communicating with each other. And it's getting more and more. We are now at around 28.5 billion machines communicating with each other. And this is also growing exponential. Like in 2020, the expectations is that we have 50 billion machines communicating with each other. And that's frustrating me a bit, because I have no idea how to communicate with these. When we look at the pyramid of technology, we see 7 levels at which technology may function in our life. Technology may move up and down this pyramid, while the lower stages need to be fulfilled before the next stage can be attained. At the bottom, Of the pyramid, we find technologies that are envisioned, such as the time machine, for example. And at the top, we find technologies that became naturalized. They are part of our human nature, such as clothing or food. All this beautiful technology has also a downside. For example, our privacy. I always use the example, when we eat something, we look what's in there. When we download software, we just hit accept. Because there's also no other choice. You cannot accept partly. You have to accept if you want the software, but we actually don't know what's in there, and we don't care. War, it's not one man fighting to another man. It's being fought in a different way. There's a guy with a joystick somewhere on the other side of the world. But even nature, like this little bastard underneath, is the biggest enemy of human mankind. It killed already billions of people. We are technically able to delete it or to erase it from the planet, but who are we to edit this nature? We're also part of this food chain. We're also an animal, actually. So I think the time we're in is a bit like, George Orwell and Leonardo da Vinci, the possibilities and the state looking at us. Even democracy is under pressure. This beautiful flower that we try to cherish. I have to tell you, I'm raised in Africa, and already there, the concept of democracy is a bit different. I never saw a poor president, for example. But here, this famous book that came out from Cathy O'Neill, she's describing how big data is increasing the inequality and even threatens democracy. When we look, for example, at the elections in the United States, I think it has been pushed a lot with algorithms, and the same way that Google is advertising, for example, with very strong profiles. If you target the angry white man, and you give him even more angry white man news, he will get very pissed off and start voting for something else. Here I have a little film clip. It's quite visionary. It's from Fight Club in 1999. Let's have a look.
I see all this potential, and I see it squandered. God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. We're slowly learning that fact. And we're very, very pissed off.
So what he's saying actually is that my job is not talking to you or organizing festivals. My job is consuming. And the corporations are advertising everything to me, so I consume, and I even buy shit I don't need. Quite visionary, because this film is almost older than it's 20 years old, actually. A lot of other things are changing. In my country, it's not legal to grow the weed, but it's legal to smoke it. There you see how they grow the plants in the exact same space. They removed the plants, and they now have mining rigs. It's not illegal, but they tap the electricity, and it just shows that people become creative and they use something else. This is biology, and this is technology. Then the biotope versus the technotope. The biotope is this biological ecosystem that is always in balance, created by nature. We as humans, we created the technotope, which is a technological ecosystem. It started with the planet 5 billion years ago, since it came into existence. 3 billion years ago, a biosphere was created. And when the people arrived, we created a technosphere, the sphere of all human activities. And just like the biosphere, that builds upon the resources of the geosphere, the technosphere actually builds upon and interacts with the biosphere. The technosphere needs the resources, like oil, for example, and natural resources. And at the end, it's just one sphere, which happens to be our planet. And this little beautiful planet appears to have a planetary ceiling also, what we call a growth economy, in fact, is a process of an economic sphere, feeding on the environmental sphere, like I said before, like the oil trade. For a long time, the environmental sphere seemed to be an infinite resource because it was so much bigger than the economic sphere. In the last few decades, however, we have reached a point where the impact on the environment spheres reaches the limit of what our planet can carry. So is this the result? I think we need to change. The past 50 years, the world was organized in a very vertical way. It was all about ego and profit and branding and everything based on capitalism. And this model went a bit too far. It became unstable in the top and at the bottom, and it's shaking all over. This is the complexity we're in. I think we have to move to a horizontal world where it's about sharing and collaborating and combining the resources. I think we're moving to this direction right now. We came from a very centralized society. We are now trying to decentralize it, although it's still like 5, 6 companies that are ruling the world. And I think we should move to a more distributed kind of society, which is actually the same as a blockchain. So our greatest values as humans, for a long time and still for many, it's economy. But I erased it. I think economy is the cancer of our society. I believe in science, but not only science, because science gives the fact. It needs culture to give the value. And many other speakers before me addressed the term creativity. I think creativity and ideas is something really important in the sphere we're here right now, and not to boost the economy, but to boost the human evolution. And for this, we need a raise in consciousness. So now let's look quickly at art, because I just talked about technology. Art and new media. We still call it new media, but I think we should just call it art, because it doesn't matter if you use paint or technology or code. And right now, the digital art production is default. Like if Van Gogh or Michelangelo would live now, he would probably not paint. He would use something else. The database is an important thing. The computer became the meta medium, and it's not so important anymore, so you don't see it. It's hidden in the artwork. And at the end, it's actually what art does. It does not matter what medium it uses, if it's code or paint or something else. The function of art, which is a reflection on society. This is how we used to consume art. It's a very one-dimensional way. You just consume it. I think it's gone, and you saw already many, many examples before me today of new forms of art. Iris van Herpen, for example, a Dutch fashion designer. She's using 3D printing and laser cutting technology. She's growing crystals, and she's combining technology and craftsmanship. Or Daan Rozengaarde, with his smart highway, a highway that charges electricity while you drive over it. Or this latest project, it's called the Smog Tower. It sucks up the air, it takes out the CO2, it gives this dirty dust. And if you compress this dust of CO2, you create a new diamond. And he's making rings out of the CO2 pollution. Or let's have a look at some products of the nano supermarket. The nano supermarket is a speculative supermarket of the future. And they're selling all kind of products that we might expect in this future. Like, for example, the Wall Smart. It's one of the most popular products. It's interactive paint, which allows you to change the color of your wall with a click of a button. Or the Nano wine. Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Gewürztraminer. You just buy one bottle, and this bottle fits with every dish you have. The wine contains millions of nano capsules, which can be activated in a microwave. Or the Google Nose. We increasingly use digital technology to augment our senses, but we rarely realize that some of them are excluded from the process. It's very much focused on the vision and what we hear. Not anymore. We have the sniffer. It will visualize the smell, or it will tell you the source of an odor. Or the Twitter implant. It's communicating all the values of your body. Anything that happens inside, and it passes them on directly to your doctor, but also to your insurance company. So do we want that? Or the honest egg, which shows you how honest or how healthy the chicken is. How many chemicals are in there. And lastly, the rayfish shoes. You can grow your own sneaker with genetically manipulated rayfish. This is a big trend. We already know the mass production of sneakers. Now we are customizing our sneakers. In the future, we will be able to have genetically manipulated rayfishes. We made a little ad for this one. So this is our context, and this is the framework on which I organize an annual festival in The Hague called TodaysArt. We do it also in Japan, in Russia. We have different projects in Mexico. We're working now on a big exhibition in Ulaanbaatar. But I always use this as a background, like the world is changing, society is changing, the natural resources are under pressure. Education actually needs to change. I learned German and French and English in school, but I didn't learn coding, and that's frustrating. I showed you how many machines are communicating, and I cannot. And I think even the educational system, it still teaches us to become the CEO of a bank. Well, fuck, maybe the bank will not exist in 20 years. We will have all kind of new jobs, and that's not being taught in school yet. I think a speaker before me told also that the system is based on a 100-year-old system. So we need solutions, and I think solutions comes from the arts and from philosophy and from thinkers, because they reflect on what's happening right now. They think of this technology. Also, I think there is a new art form rising that the traditional institutions are not following yet. It's still very much the visual artist is in the museum and the performer is on stage in the theater. But there is much more crossover, maybe due to this technology. And much more, we want actually the people to interact and to think of this technology, not just as one dimension of receiving. So we created a festival and a platform around the digital culture, which I think is our culture, and it's about innovation. What we want to do is play a role and provide ideas and connect people. I think I will leave it here, because I am way over my time already. Thank you very much. I don't know, questions? No? My shoes are not rayfish, no. I would have a big ethical problem with that. And actually ethics, I passed over it quickly, but I think ethics is a crucial thing. Like in many disciplines, in law and in finance and in medicine, there is an ethical code. And our digital world is so new that sometimes there is no ethical code yet. For example, this car that will drive you in the very near future, you will be in there and there's someone in front of you. What will the car do? Protect you or the person in front of you? And what if it's a young girl or an old man or someone who voted the right wing? The car knows because he has all the algorithms. I mean, I don't know where the ethics are there. Who is responsible? The one who coded the system? The manufacturer, yourself, who bought it? So many different new questions, I think, that needs to be answered by and reviewed by people who are creative and think about it. And in general, I think there is this, for me, it's the triangle of innovation or success. You need three things. You need money, you need a network, and you need ideas. I think most companies have the money and the network, but not the ideas. For us, it's the other way around. We have the ideas, but not the money. So let's bring this together and shape a new world. Thank you.